She screamed at the top of her lungs, "Put your hands where I can see them." The so-called HOA cop raised his gun and pointed it straight at my wife, like we were criminals standing in our own yard. Neighbors froze on their porches, eyes wide, mouths open. I took a half step forward, instinct screaming to protect her, but one look at my wife's calm expression stopped me cold. She didn't flinch, didn't even blink. That man had absolutely no idea who he was aiming his weapon at. The leader of the fake squad barked, "You're trespassing on HOA property. We decide who lives here." His voice was thick with fake authority, trying to scare us into submission. My wife tilted her head slightly, studying him like a problem she'd already solved. Then she let out a low laugh, barely audible, and whispered to me, "He has no training. Look at his stance." The neighbors murmured. Some pulled out their phones. Others were too terrified to move. I saw the man's hand shaking on the trigger. He wanted control, but it was slipping. My wife stood taller. The words Delta Force stretched across her shirt, bold and unshaken. He sneered, "One more word and I'll take you both in." That's when she finally spoke. Her voice was sharp, steady, and unmistakably confident. "You're making the worst mistake of your life." The silence that followed was so heavy, even the birds stopped chirping. He thought he had power. He didn't realize he was standing in front of someone who trained soldiers tougher than him, people sent to fight wars he couldn't even imagine. The fake cop waved his hand, and 3 more men in black vests with large yellow HOA letters rushed forward. They spread out like a SWAT team, but anyone with real experience could see the flaws immediately. Their grips were sloppy, their footwork uneven. My wife's eyes tracked every single one of them, already mapping the fight in her mind. Won the ground. Now, one of them shouted. A neighbor gasped, clutching her child. "This is insane." They didn't do anything. The fake cop snapped back, "Stay out of this. We run this neighborhood." His voice cracked as he tried to sound powerful. My wife slowly raised her hands, not in surrender, but in control. "So this is what you call authority?" she asked, her words cut like glass. The leader smirked. "Lady, you're about to find out who's in charge." She glanced at me, and that look told me everything. She wasn't scared. She was waiting. I'd seen that look before. The same one she wore right before kicking down doors overseas. Then it happened. One of the fake officers lunged and grabbed her arm. Everything changed in a heartbeat. Her hand moved so fast, I barely saw it. In one clean motion, she twisted his wrist, sent his fake badge flying into the dirt, and shoved him backward into the grass. The entire block gasped. The leader's face drained of color. He raised his gun higher, pointing it directly at her chest. But instead of fear, she stepped forward and smiled. The street fell into stunned silence. Every phone was up now, recording everything. The fake cop's finger twitched near the trigger, but my wife's voice sliced through the air before he could act. "You don't even know how to hold that weapon," she said calmly. "And if you pull it, you won't get another chance." He froze. One of the other fake officers whispered, "Boss, maybe we should back off." "Shut up." The leader snapped. "She's bluffing." Bluffing? He had no idea. Our wife took one deliberate step closer, her eyes locked onto his. For the first time, fear appeared on his face, not hers. She leaned in just enough for only him to hear. "You're pointing that gun at someone still on active duty, Delta Force." His jaw dropped. "That's impossible," he stammered. Then she shifted her stance, sharp, precise, military perfect. Anyone with real experience would recognize it instantly. A neighbor shouted, "Wait, she's military?" Another yelled, "This whole HOA squad is fake." I knew it. The leader's grip trembled. The crowd was turning, and the power he thought he had was evaporating fast, and my wife still hadn't laid a hand on him. Then came the moment that flipped everything upside down. Real sirens wailed in the distance, closing in fast. Red and blue lights washed over the houses as real patrol cars stormed into the neighborhood. The sound cut through the tension like a blade. For a split second, the fake leader's confidence collapsed. His gun lowered just a fraction, panic flashing across his face. Neighbors rushed closer, shouting, "They're not real cops." They tried to arrest her. Phones were held high, capturing every second. The fake squad looked at each other, lost like kids caught in a lie too big to escape. One muttered, "We need to get out of here." No one moves. The leader barked, desperation leaking into his voice. He turned back to my wife, snarling, "If you say one word to the real police, you'll regret it." She didn't flinch. She leaned forward slightly and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "You're finished. Every camera here caught you impersonating law enforcement." The first real cruiser skidded to a stop. Two officers jumped out, weapons drawn not at us, but at them. "Drop your weapons. Hands on your head," one shouted. The HOA squad froze, their fake badges glinting in the sunlight. The leader tried to laugh. "This is a misunderstanding. We're neighborhood security." He didn't finish. My wife cut him off, her voice commanding and clear. "They're not security. They're frauds. Check their IDs." The real officers moved fast, forcing the fake cops to the ground. As they cuffed the leader, he glared at my wife and hissed, "You think this is over? You don't know who you're dealing with." Her response was instant and ice cold. "Neither do you." The cuffs clicked tight around his wrists, but he kept ranting, "I own this place. Every house, every street. The HOA works for me." His rage only made the neighbors laugh bitterly. "You don't own anything," one man shouted. "You couldn't even pay your last fine. We've had enough of you bullying us." Another neighbor yelled. Phones stayed raised. Evidence stacked by the second. One of the real officers knelt and ripped the fake badge off the leader's chest. "This isn't even close to regulation," he said. "Where did you get this?" The man said nothing. His eyes darted around, searching desperately for an escape that no longer existed. My wife crouched down to his level, her voice calm but cutting deeper than any threat ever could. "You forged documents. You pulled a weapon on civilians. And you impersonated police in front of witnesses. Do you have any idea what that means?" The leader sneered, trying to claw back control. "They'll never lock me up. I've got people backing me more powerful than you think." One of the real officers glanced at my wife, confusion written across his face, silently questioning who she really was. She didn't answer him. Instead, she locked eyes with the man on the ground and said quietly, "Funny thing about power, it disappears the moment people see the truth." The crowd exploded. "Arrest him. Lock him up." Kids peeked from behind fences, eyes wide, watching the neighborhood bully finally fall. But just as it felt like the nightmare was ending, one of the cuffed men smirked and muttered under his breath, "She doesn't know." We weren't the only ones. The words hit me like ice in the chest. If there were more, who else was coming? The cheering died instantly. Smiles vanished. Even the air felt heavier. My wife caught it too. Her posture stiffened, her eyes sweeping the street, alert and calculating, like she was expecting danger to break through at any second. The officers looked confused. "What do you mean, not the only ones?" one demanded, yanking the man up by the arm. He didn't answer. He just grinned wider, like he knew something we didn't. Then right on cue, two black SUVs rolled slowly around the corner. Dark windows. Deliberate movement. Neighbors backed toward the sidewalks, whispering nervously, "Those aren't police vehicles. What's going on now?" The HOA leader straightened as much as his cuffs allowed, his face twisting into a smug grin. "Told you. You have no idea who's really in charge." The SUV stopped dead in the middle of the street, engines rumbling. The doors opened in perfect sync, and men stepped out wearing dark suits, sunglasses, and earpieces. They looked official. Too official. The kind of presence that made people second-guess their own instincts. One of the suited men flashed a badge to Fast and said flatly, "We'll take it from here." He gestured toward the cuffed HOA squad like they belonged to him. The real officers hesitated, exchanging uneasy looks. "Those don't look like any agency I recognize," one whispered. My wife stepped forward, her voice calm but edged with steel. "Don't hand them over. Those aren't federal agents." The lead suit tilted his head, cold and mechanical. "And how exactly would you know that?" Her reply came instantly, sharp enough to cut through the entire street. "Because I've worked with the real ones. And you're not them." The tension snapped like a wire pulled too tight. The suited men froze. Their fake badges suddenly felt heavier under every staring eye. Phone zoomed in closer as whispers spread through the crowd. One of the real officers raised his weapon slightly. "Ma'am, if you're right, we can't let them take custody." His voice wavered. The HOA leader laughed darkly from the pavement. "You think you've won? She doesn't get it. They don't leave witnesses." My chest tightened, but my wife didn't move. Not an inch. She stared at the fake agents like she was back in a combat zone. Her voice dropped, low and dangerous. "If you're here for a fight, you chose the wrong neighborhood." The lead suit smirked and flicked his hand. Instantly, two of his men reached under their jackets. But my wife was already moving. In a blur, she shoved one of the real officers out of the line of fire, spun low, and disarmed the first fake agent before his weapon even cleared the holster. The crowd screamed. Phones shook as they captured everything. The second fake agent swung his weapon toward her back until a neighbor, an old veteran with a cane, shouted, "Not in my street." He hurled the cane straight into the man's face. The gun clattered across the asphalt. The crowd erupted into cheers. The lead suit growled, "You don't know who you're messing with." My wife stood tall, holding the seized weapon steady in her hand. Her eyes burned as she leveled it at him. Her words were clear, final, unforgettable. "I'm Delta Force, and this is where your operation ends." Chaos rippled through the street, but she controlled every second of it. The fake agents froze. Cameras were everywhere. The crowd had turned, and the gun in her hand wasn't shaking. It was rock steady, like she'd done this 1,000 times before. The real officers snapped into action. "Get down. Drop your weapons." The fake agents hesitated until my wife stepped forward again. "Do it now. Because if you don't, every federal agency in this country will see this footage before sunrise." That broke them. One by one, the suited men dropped their weapons and fell to their knees. Neighbors roared, clapping, shouting, "Justice." "Lock them up." Kids on bikes rang their bells like a victory parade. The HOA leader thrashed against his cuffs, screaming, "This isn't over. You'll regret this." No one listened anymore. The real police hauled him up, and for the first time, his fake authority was nothing but empty noise. My wife lowered the weapon, handed it carefully to the nearest officer, and spoke with quiet authority. "Charge them with impersonating law enforcement, armed assault, and fraud. Don't let them walk away." The officer, still wide-eyed, nodded immediately. "Yes, ma'am." As the last of the fake squad was taken away, neighbors surrounded us thanking her, some with tears in their eyes. "You saved us," one mother whispered, clutching her child. "We finally feel safe again," another neighbor said. My wife shook her head gently. "I didn't do this for thanks. I did it because no one fake cop, fake HOA, or anyone else has the right to threaten families on their own land." I looked at her, reminded once again of a truth I sometimes forget. She wasn't just my wife, she was a warrior, still fighting, still protecting. As the patrol cars pulled away, lights flashing into the night, one thought echoed through the neighborhood, passed from whisper to whisper. They pointed a gun at the wrong woman.